You're listening to The Jacob Valk Show. He's breaking down the latest and greatest in sports as only he can. Follow him on Twitter at RealJacobValk. Here he is, Jacob Valk.
Hello, sports fans! Welcome to another edition of the Jacob Valk Show. I am Jacob Valk, and there are 3 NFL stories today to go with the trifecta. I like the symmetry there, so I'm just going to jump right into it with the Chiefs bringing back Sammy Watkins. He's going to get $9 million in base salary plus $7 million in incentives. I know that there were some Chiefs fans that were kind of nervous about their wide receiver group with him being out of the fold. Mecole Hardman had a solid rookie year, but do you really want him as Patrick Mahomes' second wide receiver when you're looking to repeat? They really wanted to bring Watkins back. I know that for a fact. I've never been a big Watkins fan. He came into the league like a bat out of hell in Buffalo. Maybe the fact that he was a Bill and killed the Jets has something to do with that. I remember the game against the Jets when he was hot dogging it on the way to the end zone. And Salim Hakeem, remember him? Salim Hakeem was able to catch up to him and mercifully bring him down before he crossed the goal line. I think they scored later in that drive. It didn't mean much in the grand scheme of things. But, fun fact for you, Salim Hakeem wasn't even a defensive back. He was a wide receiver. Primarily a special teams player. Nicely done, Idzik. Watkins, the last 4 years, for the first 3, really wasn't that good. Bounced around a lot. I wasn't even crazy about his fit when he signed with the Chiefs. I remember not liking that. But then last year he came alive, made a bunch of clutch catches, was an integral part of their offense. In the playoffs, he had an average of 92.8 receiving yards. That's through his whole playoff career with the Chiefs. That's pretty darn good. He's a money receiver now. He's a guy who you can count on. I like the Chiefs bringing him back. This contract is fair for him. Let him earn the bulk of his money. You want to give him $9 million, assuming he stays the whole 16 games or 17 games now. Man, that's going to take some getting used to. I don't mind that. $7 million through incentives is very fair. I like the move for the Chiefs. Moving on now to the Saints, bringing back P.J. Williams for 1 year at $2 million. And, look, I understand that Williams is young and he has positional versatility. $2 million isn't a lot in the grand scheme of things, and they needed cornerback depth behind Lattimore and Jenkins. But there had to be better nickels available, right? P.J. Williams isn't that good. According to Pro Football Focus, last year, he had a 51 overall grade. I mean, 2017, he looked like he was going to be pretty good. But, you know, he was never great. was terrible in 2018, and last year he wasn't that good. See, the thing with Williams is he's not a nickel corner. He's a strong safety. Just put him at strong safety, and he'll hold his own. He's not a nickel corner. He's not good in coverage. His coverage grade last year was 47.8. I'd love the Saints to draft a cornerback in 3 weeks. Get some more depth behind their big guns in Lattimore and Jenkins. It will help them so much as they look to get Breeze another Super Bowl. Moving on now to the Raiders, bringing in Demarius Randall after missing out on Eli Apple. They signed Randall to a 1-year deal worth up to $3.25 million. They had a deal with Apple, but it fell through. We don't know why it fell through, but there have been a bunch of deals this offseason to fall through. So, you really can't blame the Raiders there, and they pivoted to a really good player. I understand that Apple's a corner and Randall's a safety. Maybe there isn't a correlation there, but I think it's worth bringing up Apple. I really do think it had something to do with it. It may not have been the seminal reason for bringing Randall in, but I'm sure it had something to do with it. Randall is a really good young safety. I remember when he was traded to Cleveland, John Dorsey really liked him. He was part of that big trade involving Deshaun Kaiser, who I think is a terrible quarterback. Even as a backup, I don't like him. You can do a lot better than Kaiser. I understand that trade wasn't the Beckham trade, but it was still a pretty noticeable trade, I thought, and Randall has really shined with the Browns. His first year there, 72.8 overall grade, and last year he got hurt a little bit, but he still finished with a 69.3 overall grade and played over 700 snaps. He clashed with Freddie Kitchens, which is why he's lasted so long. That doesn't bother me. I'd have clashed with Freddie Kitchens. A lot of players clash with Freddie Kitchens. Plus, John Gruden likes his veterans to have a little bit of fight in them. I like the fit of him in Vegas. Assuming he stays at safety, he's a lot younger than Eric Harris. And Jeff Heath has injury concerns, so you may see Randall a lot. And if he plays corner, there's obviously a hole there now. He'll be fine. I really like the move. I think it's going to work out really well for the Raiders. Alright, it's time for numbers 17 through 20 on my 2020 NFL Draft Big Board. They are Xavier McKinney, Justin Jefferson, K'Lavon Chaisson, great name, and DeAndre Swift. McKinney is, without question, the best safety in this draft. I know that I've belittled the strong safety position in the past, and I stand by that, but free safety is very important. And McKinney, I think, is going to be a really good free safety in this league. He has great speed, great athleticism, great instincts. It'll help him match up against the speediest of NFL wide receivers. If you put him at strong safety, he won't do as well. He's the guy who you want coming in second to try to bring down a ball carrier. He's not a good tackler. He's not that strong. He's very willing to tackle, He has a great motor, but he's not capable of bringing down a ball carrier in the open field one-on-one. You want him coming in second, or if you want him making the initial contact, someone else needs to come in really fast. McKinney needs to be used correctly. He cannot play strong safety. It won't work. He'll have to play free safety. I have no problem with that at all. I think McKinney's going to be a really good NFL player for a long time. I've heard some people compare him to the Honey Badger. I don't really like that comparison. The size isn't right, and Matthew is a much better tackler than McKinney. Having said that, though, I really don't have a good player comp for McKinney. So, those in glass houses shouldn't throw stones, I guess. I've said in the past that Joe Burrow, when he goes to the Bengals, is going to be in a much worse system than he was at LSU. And a lot of that has to do with Justin Jefferson. All due respect to A.J. Green. He's been a great wide receiver in this league for a long time. But he's not that player anymore. You can't trust him with his injury history. And Tyler Boyd isn't an insanely dynamic receiver. In a perfect world, he's not a number one. Jefferson has the potential to be a number one. He has great ball skills, really good separation skills. I loved his production at LSU. A great height-weight speed combination. I like him to be a little bit more of a deep threat. You know, I want him to be able to either go on go routes 30 yards down the field and catch those for touchdowns. Break them wide open that way. Or I'd like him to turn short passes into long gains. He's not there yet. I don't know if he'll ever get there. He reminds me a lot of Marvin Jones in that sense. He'll be a really, 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 really good player in this league. He'll never be great, but that's okay. It's okay that he's not the most dynamic player in the world. If you're just really, really solid all around, and you're really, really good, that's fine. I can live with that. Chason is the prototypical modern NFL edge rusher. His athleticism is off the charts, which is really something considering he has durability concerns. He's had ankle and knee injuries the past 2 seasons. But this kid has a great get-off. He's not a bull rusher. He uses his speed to get around the edge. That helps him create really good angles to get around the blocker and get to the quarterback. He reminds me a little bit of Whitney Merciless. Not the strongest player on the field, but very, very effective. I like Chason. I don't love him. There's some risk in taking him in the first round, but he has the potential to be a great player in this league, assuming he can stay healthy. There are some people who have asked me what I think the overall feel of this draft is. Is it top-heavy? Is it average? Is it really, really deep? To those people, I'd say that it depends on the position. This isn't the deepest draft when you look at overall positions. I think that once you get out of the top 15 of players on my big board, there's a lot of risk there. But then again, when you look at running back and wide receiver, it's stacked. And even quarterback, there are 6 quarterbacks in this draft. Burrow, Tua, Herbert, Eason, Love, and Fromm, who I think could turn into really good starters. This is a weird draft. I don't remember such a top-heavy draft having this much depth at the skill positions. Very, very strange. DeAndre Swift is, without question, the best running back in this draft, but he's gonna fall, and he's gonna fall a lot. He will fall out of the top 20. I'd be stunned if he didn't. Like I just said, the fact that this is such a deep draft at running back means that you'd be hard-pressed to take him in the top 20. Now, a guy like Josh Jacobs was the best running back in last year's draft. He was taken outside the top 20 and had a really good rookie year. So, he's a first-round talent. He will be taken in the first round, but he won't be in the Barkley, Elliott, Gurley, or Fournette range. Not even close. It's amazing how Georgia has been able to solidly produce these really good running backs like Gurley, Nick Chubb, and Sonny Michel. It's insane. And Swift looks to follow in that mold. He is insanely fast. He reminds me a lot of Chris Johnson in his prime, CJ2K. I'm not saying he's going to rush for 2,000 yards in a season, but he has that speed. The biggest thing with Swift is he has to get stronger. Now, he doesn't need to be Marshawn Lynch or Earl Campbell, but he goes down far too easily in one-on-one battles. He's got to be able to break those off for big gains. Get around the edge, hit the defender with a stiff arm, and then break that run for a big gain. He has that speed. He just has to get stronger. Now, that is something that can be worked on. I hope he's hitting the weight room with this quarantine, but it's a huge issue with him. There's no question about it. Alright, it's time for this day in sports history. On this day, in 1983, my favorite March Madness moment of all time took place. Derek Whittenburg attempted a 30-foot shot that fell short. The game would have gone into overtime, but Lorenzo Charles, with his great positioning, was able to catch the ball and put it in, winning the tournament for Jim Valvano and the NC State Wolfpack. Now, I have no particular allegiance to NC State. Full disclosure, there was a time in my life when I wanted to go there, but obviously I didn't. I do like Jim Valvano, though. I feel like everyone does. But that's not why this is my favorite moment. It's my favorite moment because it epitomizes what March Madness is. The best team in the nation losing to a 6 seed in the most improbable of fashions. Houston, all throughout that year, was insanely dominant. They had a 26-game win streak at one point. And all throughout the tournament, they never really had any scares. They were really never in danger of losing to Maryland or Memphis. They blew out Villanova by 18, and they blew out Louisville by 13. Everyone picked the Cougars in that game. They were 7.5-point favorites. And when you look at NC State, they narrowly, and I mean narrowly, got out of the first round of that tournament. First round against Pepperdine. Beat them by 2. They beat UNLV by 1. They blew out Utah. Utah was a Cinderella team. They should have beaten Utah. They should have destroyed Utah. Then they narrowly beat Virginia by 1. A better team. They beat Georgia pretty handedly, but there was no one who didn't think that the Cougars were going to run away with that game. But at the end of the first half, NC State was up 8. Now, it's important to understand why. Clyde Drexler had 4 first-half fouls. He did not play a lot in that game. Only 25 minutes. Compare that to Akeem Olajuwon, who played 38 minutes. Olajuwon also had trouble adjusting to the high altitude of New Mexico. The game was in Albuquerque. He had to be taken out a lot. Guy Lewis, I'm sure, would have had him in for 42 to 43 minutes if he could, but Olajuwon was gassed. He required oxygen on the sidelines multiple times. Then the second half rolled around, and Houston got their composure. They outplayed NC State in that second half. There's no question. But this is where Jim Valvano is so great. His strategy at the end of the game, nothing short of masterful. The last Houston possession, Alvin Franklin brought the ball up the court. Valvano had his players back off. Let him bring the ball up court. Let him waste time. Keep in mind, the game was tied at this point. Valvano didn't think that the freshman could withstand the pressure of hitting those free throws to take the lead in the title game. He was right. He missed. The Wolfpack grabbed the rebound. And Valvano called timeout and drew up a crazy play. It's a play that in modern times wouldn't work. Back then there was no shot clock. 44 seconds left in the game. You can't do what Valvano did. He called for Derek Whittenburg to get the ball with 10 seconds left, let him create an opportunity in an ISO set, and he was going to win the game. Guy Lewis, who was playing man-to-man the whole game, changed to a zone with the goal of trapping a member of the Wolfpack, and he'd then be forced into making a stupid decision. And it worked. Twice in that last possession, the Cougars almost got the steal. Drexler nearly got a steal, and Benny Anders nearly got a steal. Thurl Bailey had the ball in the corner, and he was doubled as soon as he caught it. He knew he had to pass it. He threw one of the worst passes you'll ever see. I'm not a basketball coach, but I can pretty much guarantee that there's no coach that would recommend a pass from the corner to the top of the key. Actually, past the top of the key. He was 30 feet from the basket, was Derek Whittenburg. Anders ran to get the pass, to intercept it, and God only knows what would have happened in that case. Derek Whittenburg had the presence of mind to attack the pass. Whittenburg gained control of the ball, and he put up a desperation shot that everyone knew was going to fall short. But everyone gave up on the play. Everyone except one man, Lorenzo Charles. Everyone was afraid of goaltending. Charles knew that he'd be in position to win the game. He got in perfect position around the taller and better Olajuwon and dunked the ball in with 2 seconds left. Houston couldn't inbound the ball in time. And NC State won one of the most miraculous games you'll ever see. Seriously, watch that play if you haven't seen it. It's insane. There's no way that should have gone in. It was a terrible set. Great job by Guy Lewis. But the fact that Lorenzo Charles was there and had the presence of mind to do that, that's Reggie Miller-esque. That's Ray Allen-esque. And one of the best moments of all of sports is watching Jimmy V run around the court looking for someone to hug. You gotta love March Madness, man. Even if you're not a big college basketball fan. You just don't see moments like that anywhere else. Alright, it's time for another Mount Rushmore. This one is on the Houston Astros. A very, very tough one to do. Not because they're cheaters, but because of the question of evaluation. Do you go by total body of work or do you go by dominance? If you go by dominance, what's more dominant than winning a World Series? I don't want to hear that the World Series is tainted. That's not my argument. We shouldn't strip the Astros of anything. But I'll tell you, you've got an argument for putting guys like Altuve, Berkman, Correa, Springer, even Verlander on the Mount Rushmore, if you're going based on dominance. But I look at total body of work over dominance. And the simple fact is, the current day Astros just haven't been there long enough. In 20 years, this Mount Rushmore will change. There's no question. But as of right now, the correct Mount Rushmore is Craig Biggio, Jeff Bagwell, Lance Berkman, and Roy Oswalt. Biggio had 3,060 hits in his career, all with the Astros. And Jeff Bagwell had 449 home runs in his career, all with the Astros. When you mention Biggio and Bagwell, you have to mention Berkman, the third of the Killer Bees. I remember him with the Yankees. I liked that trade at the time, but it didn't work. The Big Puma just really couldn't get his power going in the Bronx. Had a good average, solid on base percentage, but that's not why they traded for Berkman. They wanted power. And to make matters worse, they traded Mark Melancon for him. I understand that Melancon didn't do much as a Yankee, but it just hurts to see what Melancon's become. That's a bad trade for Cashman. The fourth guy was tough, though. Do you give it to one of the current Astros? Or do you give it to a guy like Nolan Ryan, Roy Oswalt, or Joe Niekro? Niekro leads the Astros and wins all time. You can even put Mike Scott in that mix, too. And Ryan leads him in strikeouts. But Oswalt is second in both wins and strikeouts for an Astro. And he spent the bulk of his career there. Yeah, he had a good year and a half with the Phillies, but besides that, he was terrible for the Rangers and terrible for the Rockies. I think when you look at the overall status of a pitcher for the Astros, Oswalt ranks ahead of Niekro and Ryan. Ryan was more dominant, but Oswalt just has the better stats for an Astro. I like the fact that he's second in wins and strikeouts. Ryan is sixth in wins with 106. Oswalt has 143. That means something to me. And let me tell you, that 05 Astros team, I liked watching that team play. That was just a fun team to watch. I was rooting for him. I wanted Clemens and Pettit to win another World Series. I didn't begrudge them for leaving. I wanted them to be successful. But the White Sox were just a team of destiny that year. They were by far and away the better team. And that World Series was never really in doubt. On Monday, you may get some NFL news along with the Trifecta. Maybe just the Trifecta. Maybe just NFL news. I have no idea what the future holds. What I do know is that you should stay safe, stay inside. I know it's tough, but I think that everyone has gotten kind of used to this as much as you can. Until Monday, I am Jacob Valk saying that when I was in the hospital, I heard my girlfriend say that she was going to cremate me. I decided to get better because I couldn't take the heat.